I wasn't even supposed to be there that night. That part sticks with me more than it should. Chloe had invited me to her company's corporate dinner in San Diego. A last-minute thing, just a casual mention over breakfast. Nothing exciting, she said, already on her phone scrolling through emails. One of those boring business banquets. Suits, speeches, stale wine. I'd brushed it off at first. I had a long week and was planning to stay in. But something about the way she said it, too rehearsed, like she'd already practiced how she'd explain it, got under my skin. So I figured I'd surprise her. We hadn't had much quality time lately, and I missed her. I convinced myself it'd be a sweet gesture. So I put on a decent shirt, drove out to the hotel around 9:30, and told myself I'd just pop in, say hi, maybe walk her to the car at the end of the night. Something small, something good. But the moment I stepped into that lobby, everything started to feel off. The front desk clerk barely looked up when I walked past. The hallway to the conference area was lined with dim wall sconces, casting this low, golden glow that made everything feel quieter than it should have been. It was near the end of the night, and I figured most of the event was winding down. I followed the sound of clinking glasses and murmured conversations down a side corridor until I reached the main conference room. And that's when I saw her. She was standing near the exit, right where the hallway opened up into the lobby. Chloe was adjusting the collar of some guy's dress shirt, like actually fussing over it, both hands smoothing the fabric, her face a little too close to his neck. Her fingers were lingering, and he wasn't exactly backing away either. He was just standing there, arms slightly raised, like he didn't want to move and risk ending the moment. Took me a second to recognize him. Mason, that guy from her team she'd mentioned maybe once or twice. Always in passing, always casually. And that's when I saw the red mark on his sleeve. It was smudged, deep red, like lipstick. Chloe's lipstick. The exact shade she always wore when she was dressing up for networking. The exact lipstick she'd put on earlier that evening, while I stood in the bathroom doorway watching her run her fingers through her hair like she was going on a first date. On the table next to them were 2 wine glasses, both half full. Both with her favorite wine, white, lightly chilled, probably the same Sauvignon Blanc she always ordered when we went out. I froze. I didn't say a word. I just stood there like someone had hit pause on my entire body. And that's when she looked up and saw me. Her expression changed instantly. I saw it. First, there was surprise, genuine, unfiltered shock. Then, in a split second, it morphed into this calm, practiced smile. Too quick to be natural. Too smooth to be innocent. "Ethan!" she called out, like she'd just run into me at a grocery store instead of being caught adjusting another man's shirt with her lipstick on him. Mason stepped back like he was suddenly aware of his arms, gave me this awkward half-nod, and mumbled something about needing to make a call. He vanished down the hall before I could even register that he existed. Chloe walked toward me with that same fake smile and this upbeat tone that made my skin crawl. "This is such unlucky timing," she said, laughing like I just walked in on her tripping over a chair. "We were just joking about this, like, what if someone thought something weird was going on? And boom, there you are." I didn't say anything. I just looked at the lipstick on her wine glass and then back at her. She saw my eyes flick and followed my gaze. "Oh, that." She waved it off. "That's not even mine. We had raspberry macarons earlier. Those things stain like crazy." I remember blinking at her, stunned. "So the mark on his shirt?" She rolled her eyes. "Mason's an idiot. He leaned into the dessert tray. He got it all over himself. I was helping him fix it before he went on stage." "There's a stage." "Well, there was. He gave a toast earlier, like a mini one. It's not a big deal, Ethan. Seriously." She was talking fast, filling the air with words, trying to stay ahead of the suspicion. The way she kept glancing at me like she was gauging whether I was buying the story, that told me everything. "I just stopped by," I finally said. "Thought I'd say hi. Didn't know it was this kind of party." She laughed, too loudly. "It's not a party. Just the team winding down after a long week. I'm glad you came, though." She leaned in and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. Felt cold. Performed. I nodded. But in my head, Alarms were going off like sirens. I knew what I saw. And more importantly, I knew what I felt. That low, twisting tension in my chest wasn't just jealousy. It was instinct. It was the quiet scream of something breaking just beneath the surface. I let her talk me down. I let her explain it away. I even smiled, played along, said something like, "No worries," even though my jaw felt like it was made of stone. Because that's what you do when you want to believe someone. You doubt yourself before you doubt them. You tell yourself, it's probably nothing. You let them blame your imagination, your insecurities, your timing. You pretend that what you saw was innocent because the alternative, that the person you love, the person you've built your life with, might be lying to your face, that's a truth you're not ready to hold. Not yet. So I drove home that night sitting in silence, hands locked on the steering wheel, the smell of her perfume still lingering on my shirt from that cheek kiss. I tried to convince myself that I was being dramatic, that it was just an awkward moment, that I had misunderstood. But I couldn't shake it. I kept seeing her hands on his shirt, her fingers smoothing him down like she knew his body, like she had every right to be that close. I kept seeing the wine glasses, 2 of them, not a whole group drinking, just them, sitting off to the side, like they were having their own private celebration. And I kept hearing her voice in my head, talking too fast, spinning too many excuses, trying too hard to cover something up that she swore didn't need covering. That night, as I lay in bed with her sleeping beside me, I stared at the ceiling and realized I'd crossed a line in my mind, one I couldn't uncross. I didn't know the whole story yet, but I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't nothing. This was the first crack. The first red flag I tried to dismiss. After the dinner at the hotel, the one I wasn't supposed to attend, the one where I caught Chloe and Mason in that too familiar moment, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. I tried. God, I tried. I told myself I was overreacting, that maybe I just walked into a weird coincidence. But once that seed of doubt is planted, everything starts looking different. And once you start paying attention, you realize how many signs were there all along. I started mentally rewinding the last few months, trying to figure out when things had started to shift. Chloe had been working later. At first, it seemed legit. Her team had taken on some big campaign, and she was always talking about it like it was this high-pressure opportunity. I supported her, obviously. I even brought her dinner a couple times to the office. But after a while, she stopped wanting me to do that. Said she needed to stay focused. One night, I got to her building before she could respond to my "want Thai" text, and when I got up there, the lights were off. Her desk was empty. She texted back 5 minutes later saying she'd already left and was on her way home. I said nothing at the time, but I remembered that night. Then there was the perfume. She never used to care much about scent. Just a light spritz if we were going out somewhere nice. But now, she had a new bottle on the vanity. Something more expensive. I asked about it once, and she said it was a free promo they'd gotten through work. No label. Just a sleek black glass bottle she kept tucked in her purse. She said it was a test scent. But the way she wore it, on her neck, her wrists, her collarbone like clockwork, it didn't feel like a test. Felt like a message. And then there was her phone. God, the phone. We used to be one of those couples who didn't care about sharing screens. We'd scroll through photos together, order food off each other's devices. No lock screens. No secrets. But now, her phone had a lock. Face ID only. If I asked her to check something, she'd physically come over and do it herself. Never handed it to me. She kept it flipped screen down every time we were together. And at night, instead of charging it on the nightstand like she always had, she started leaving it in the drawer of her desk in the office down the hall. Trying to sleep better, she said. Too many notifications. She didn't used to care about that. She used to fall asleep with it playing dumb YouTube videos at low volume. Same with her laptop. New password. New user profile. She said it was for security stuff at work, that they were being stricter with client data. But I saw the tabs once when she forgot to close it, and there wasn't a spreadsheet or slide deck in sight. Just travel blogs. Hotel booking sites. One had a reservation page for that same hotel from the San Diego dinner. That one stuck with me. And it wasn't just her tech. It was the small stuff, behavioral shifts, habits that didn't fit. Like how she started dressing up more for routine meetings, like heels for a coffee with a vendor, full makeup for a 10-minute check-in. She always looked amazing, don't get me wrong, but it started to feel like she was putting more effort into how she looked when she wasn't with me than when she was. She started going to the gym more, too. Said she wanted to feel stronger. I supported that, of course. But then a new gym bottle showed up in the laundry. Not the one I got her last Christmas. A blue one with a scratch down the side and a tiny sticker of some local gym I'd never heard of. I asked about it, and she said it was from a friend who left it at work. But I kept seeing it. In her car. On the kitchen counter. It wasn't just borrowed, it had a home. Another time I found a bar receipt in the laundry. It had been folded up in her coat pocket. I wasn't snooping. I was doing laundry like I always do on Sundays. The receipt was from a bar I didn't recognize. Downtown, trendy, not our scene. 2 drinks, 1 appetizer. Paid in cash. Chloe doesn't use cash. Ever. I asked her casually if she'd been out with her team lately. She shrugged. Said no, not really. 2 slammed for drinks, she said. Wish I had time. She was lying. That's when I started keeping a mental list. Not for confrontation. Not because I wanted to play detective. But because I needed to know I wasn't imagining it. I needed to gather the truth before it dissolved in the fog of excuses. She asked me about my income one night, out of nowhere. We were watching TV, half asleep on the couch, and she turned to me and asked, "Do you think we should combine everything? Like fully? Savings, income, everything?" I blinked. Where's this coming from? She smiled and shrugged. Just thinking about the future, that's all. Would be nice to have everything in one place. Easier. I played it off. Said I'd think about it. But something felt off. Chloe had always liked our separate accounts. Said it made her feel independent. She'd also been extra tidy lately. At first, I thought it was just stress cleaning. But then I noticed it was specific. Only on certain nights. The nights she came home late. On those nights, her laundry was already in the washer before I could get to it. The bed sheets had been changed. The bathroom trash was emptied. The floor wiped down. Little erasures. As if someone else had been here, and she didn't want to leave a single clue. One night, I went to take out the trash and noticed the bathroom bin already bagged up in the outside can. That had never happened before. Chloe doesn't even go near the trash cans. But that night, it was like she'd done a forensic sweep of our entire house. That's when I started checking the small stuff. I noticed things out of place. A throw pillow on the wrong side of the couch. A mug in the sink I didn't use. The Bluetooth speaker connected to a phone I didn't recognize for a split second before disconnecting. Her car seat adjusted way too far back. The little things, the things people forget to cover up, told me everything. She wasn't just distracted. She wasn't just tired. She wasn't just working late. She was hiding someone. I didn't know who. Not for sure. Mason was the most obvious possibility, after what I'd seen at the hotel. But it didn't really matter at that point. The point was that she was already gone. Her attention, her time, her affection, all of it had shifted somewhere else, and I was now living in the afterimage of our relationship. Keeping the lights on while she ghosted me in our own home. I started watching her more. Not in a paranoid way. Just carefully. Observing. She laughed at her phone more. Private little smiles. Tucked away giggles she didn't share with me. She used to tell me everything. Now I'd ask about her day and get vague answers. Busy. Long. Stressful. Nothing concrete. Nothing real. I stopped pressing. I started documenting. Quietly, because some part of me already knew. The truth was in the silences, in the deflections, in the perfectly timed smiles and the impossibly smooth excuses. And after that night at the hotel, I realized something that gutted me more than any other realization. She was better at lying than I thought, because the patterns weren't new. They'd been forming for months. I just hadn't wanted to see them until now. The moment everything fell apart didn't happen with a fight, or a confession, or even a slip of the tongue. It happened quietly, on a random weekday morning, when the sun was barely up and the house still smelled like last night's coffee. I wasn't even looking for anything. I swear I wasn't. I'd reached that fragile stage of denial where you tell yourself you're just tired, stressed, imagining things. You start clinging to the hope that the unsettling whispers in the back of your mind are just insecurities. That the woman you've built a life with can't really be stepping out of it. But the truth doesn't care about your hope. It finds you anyway. Chloe had left early that morning for an early briefing. She'd said those exact words, in that same clipped tone she used when she didn't want follow-up questions. She wore the blazer she saved for big meetings and sprayed that same new perfume she'd been wearing for months now. The one that didn't smell like home, or us, or anything familiar. She kissed me on the forehead and left with her travel mug, her shoes clicking down the hall. I heard the garage door close, heard her car pull out, heard the silence settle behind her. I got up maybe 10 minutes later, still half asleep, still trying to convince myself we were just in a rough patch. As I walked into the kitchen, I saw her tablet sitting on the counter, something she never forgot. Chloe was surgically attached to that thing. She used it for everything: work, schedules, emails, sketches, movies, planning, budgeting. She never left it behind. Ever. I almost called her. My hand was halfway to the tablet when it lit up on its own, automatically connecting to the home Wi-Fi. No password prompt. Just an immediate sync, like it had been waiting for me. And that's when the screen flashed open to the gallery app. At first, it was just a grid of thumbnails. Tiny squares of white bedsheets, wine glasses, city lights, blurred selfies, travel bags, documents, outfits. Normal. Innocent. But something about the thumbnails looked wrong. Different lighting. Different backgrounds. Hotel lighting. Hotel bedding. Not our home. I tapped on one. It opened into a photo of a balcony, one I recognized instantly. The same hotel from the San Diego dinner. Same beige railing. Same ocean view. Same angle Chloe had posted once, months ago, when she went on a team retreat. Except this wasn't the same photo. There were 2 wine glasses on the balcony table. Her signature stemless glass on the left, and a heavier, masculine glass on the right. Next to the glasses was a tie. A man's tie, loosened, draped over the chair. My stomach dropped. I swiped to the next photo. And the next. And the next. Each one cut deeper. There were *TS from inside the room. The nightstand with 2 sets of toiletries. Her makeup scattered next to a watch I'd never seen before. A man's shirt on the floor near the bed. A pair of dress shoes by the armchair. A hotel room key with Mason's initials printed on the envelope. Company branded, with a handwritten Room 504. I recognized the handwriting immediately, because I'd seen Mason's handwriting on the whiteboard at their office last year. I didn't even realize I was shaking until my thumb slipped on the screen. I steadied myself and kept going. Kept swiping, even when my chest felt like it was caving in. There was a photo of her in the hotel mirror, holding her phone up, taking a picture of herself in the reflection. She was lying on the bed, hair messy, sheets pulled half over her. And right there, next to her, barely out of frame but unmistakably present, was Mason's shoulder. His bare shoulder. His skin against her white sheets. And then, God, there was a second photo. Not of their bodies. Nothing explicit. But it didn't need to be. It was just a reflection of her face in the mirror, half asleep, smiling. And I could see him behind her, brushing her hair off her neck with a familiarity that made me nauseous. The int * Macy wasn't graphic. It was worse. It was comfortable. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a drunken slip. This wasn't heat-of-the-moment chaos. This was routine. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at those photos. Time blurred. My hands were cold. My vision tunneled. I didn't cry. Shock has a way of freezing you before the grief can reach your throat. Eventually, I forced myself back to the gallery screen. A folder near the top caught my eye. It wasn't named San Diego or Work Trip. It wasn't disguised. It wasn't hidden. It was simply titled Us. Like a knife to the ribs. Inside were screensh *TS of their messages. I shouldn't have opened them, but I did. There were messages about weekend plans. Joint weekends coming up again, winking face. I miss our mornings. When it's finally official, I'll be able to wake up with you every day. Every day. There were messages about me. He's paranoid. He doesn't get it. I don't want to hurt him, but I don't owe him my whole life. My whole life. The life I had built around her. The life I thought we were building together. There were messages about the San Diego dinner. Can't believe he almost saw us. Next time we'll be more careful. Wish we didn't have to hide in plain sight. Hide. In plain sight. My ears rang. I swiped. Kept going. There were hotel confirmations. Weekend calendars. Plans for quiet mornings and late nights. A whole other life I didn't know she was living. A life she built inside the cracks of ours. I set the tablet down slowly, gently, like it might explode if I dropped it. I leaned both hands on the counter and just breathed. Slow, shaky breaths that didn't feel like they belonged to me. And then, in the middle of the kitchen, with the morning sun spilling across the tile and her coffee mug still half warm from when she left, I understood something so clearly it hurt. This wasn't a marriage anymore. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a rough patch or a misunderstanding or a bad month. This was a double life. This was premeditated. This was planned. She had one foot in my home and the rest of her body in someone else's bed. And now I had the photos, the messages, the confirmations, the timestamps, all of it, everything I needed to know the truth. There was no going back. Not after this. Not after seeing what she really looked like when she thought I wasn't watching. Not after seeing who she really woke up for. I didn't confront her that day. I didn't storm into her office or blow up her phone with angry texts. I didn't print the photos and slap them on the fridge like a soap opera plot twist. That's what the old me might have done. The me who believed anger was a form of strength. But this was different. This was betrayal with precision. Calculated, repeatable. I realized I was playing chess, not checkers. So I didn't rage. I documented. And then I started to execute. The first step was financial. Chloe didn't know it, but I had quietly kept my own savings account ever since college. Back when we first moved in together, she'd pushed hard to merge everything. Checking, credit cards, cloud drives, even streaming accounts. What's mine is yours, she used to say, smiling with her whole face. Now those words echoed with irony. That same night, after finding the evidence on her tablet, I opened my laptop and spent 5 hours untangling every single thread we tied together over the years. Passwords, auto payments, subscriptions, shared accounts. It was like unwinding a digital marriage before I even touched the paperwork. I revoked her access to my personal savings. She didn't even know the bank name. I'd never brought it up. I locked down the shared credit card and rerouted my direct deposit to a fresh checking account. I downloaded and backed up every financial statement from the last year. I flagged unusual charges. There were more than a few. Once that was squared away, I moved on to data. I pulled my photos from the shared cloud drive, deleted shared folders, moved files from the house desktop to an encrypted USB I'd stored in the bottom of a drawer since grad school. She wouldn't notice immediately. She never used the desktop, but I wasn't taking chances. Then came the living situation. I knew I couldn't keep sharing a roof with her. Not with what I knew, not while pretending. So I started looking for a short-term rental, something close enough to stay under the radar but far enough to give me space. It took me 3 days to find a furnished apartment downtown, available on a month-to-month lease. Clean, quiet, no questions asked. I paid the deposit without hesitation. Moved in a few boxes. Just essentials, laptop, clothes, toiletries, the USB drive, my documents. I didn't tell her anything. Every morning, I'd get up like normal, shower, pour coffee, make small talk while she scrolled through her phone, probably texting Mason, and head off to work. But instead of going to the office, I'd stop by the apartment, set up my workspace, make calls, think, document, prepare. There was a kind of cold focus to it all. A clarity I hadn't felt in months. I didn't avoid her at home. I just stopped making myself available. I became strategic. If she made dinner, I complimented it. If she asked how my day was, I gave vague answers. If she touched me, I didn't pull away, but I didn't lean in, either. She thought I was just distracted. Maybe tired. Maybe burned out. She had no idea I was already detaching. Emotionally, logistically, legally. I contacted a lawyer. Quietly. Privately. A friend of a friend. Someone discreet. We met at a coffee shop 2 towns over. I brought everything, the *TS, the emails, the photos, the financial records. I laid it out calmly, without embellishment. The lawyer just nodded. "This isn't your first rodeo, is it?" I asked. He gave a wry smile. "Nope, but you're doing the smart thing. No confrontation. No dramatics. Just proof and planning. You're in a good position." That hurt more than I thought it would. Good position. As if this was some kind of business acquisition, not the collapse of my marriage. Still, I nodded. I wanted to get through this clean. No messy arguments. No guilt traps. No giving her the chance to spin a new narrative. I started keeping a journal. Not for therapy, just records. I logged everything. Dates. Times. When she left. When she returned. What she said. What she wore. What she didn't say. I knew the pattern now, and I knew what judges looked for. I wasn't just preparing for an ending. I was setting the foundation for a controlled exit. One night, she came home late again. Said she had drinks with Bethany from marketing. Smelled like wine, perfume, and fabric softener that wasn't ours. Her hair was still damp, like she'd rushed through a shower. Her gym bag was in the car, but her towel was dry. She slipped into bed like everything was normal. "I missed you today," she said, whispering into the dark. I didn't respond. Just stared at the ceiling and added a line to the entry in my phone's notes app. 10:53 p.m. Hair damp. Towel unused. Said she missed me. Didn't ask about my day. Later that week, she asked if I wanted to go to a fundraiser with her, one of her work events. She framed it as a fun night out, but I could see through it. It was image management. Optics. Chloe liked to maintain the illusion of a stable life. A loyal husband. Perfect narrative. I went. Played the part. Shook hands. Smiled for the photos. Watched her put her arm around my waist like she still had the right. Mason was there, of course. He avoided me like the plague. At one point, I caught them talking in the corner, half-lit by the hallway sconce. They weren't touching. Nothing technically inappropriate. But the way her body leaned toward his, casual, familiar, private, was the same posture she used to have with me. That posture was no longer mine. The night ended with her thanking me, kissing my cheek in front of her coworkers, telling me I was the best for coming. I smiled, told her I was proud of her, meant none of it. Back at home, she fell asleep fast, probably emotionally drained from juggling both worlds. I lay awake again, counting ceiling tiles, wondering how long she thought she could keep it up. The longer she faked it, the more I understood something unsettling. She wasn't in love with Mason. She wasn't in love with me either. She was in love with the arrangement, the stability, the image, the duality. She had her real life behind closed doors, and me as the front-facing version she could bring to work events and family dinners. I was the furniture, the credibility, the proof she hadn't wrecked her personal life while building her professional one. And that made everything even worse, because it wasn't lust, or passion, or weakness. It was management. She was managing me, and I was done being managed. I printed out the divorce documents, put them in a folder, labeled it simply, Step 1. I didn't give them to her, not yet, but I left the folder in the drawer by my desk, the one she never opens, just to remind myself that this wasn't in my head, that this was real, that I wasn't crazy or cold or cruel. I was just done. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger burns fast and dies quickly. What I had now was colder, sharper. This was execution. No outbursts, no yelling, no begging, just planning, just precision, just the slow, careful unraveling of a life she didn't know was already coming apart. After everything I'd seen, everything I knew, there was no version of the story where things went back to normal. But Chloe, She kept acting like there was. Like we were just on the tail end of a busy season. Like the stress would lift and we'd bounce back to lazy Sunday mornings and spontaneous road trips. She cooked more. That was the first change I noticed. Suddenly I'd come home to new recipes, quinoa bowls, pan-seared salmon, fresh herbs on everything. Chloe never liked cooking. She used to joke that her culinary sk*l peaked at frozen ravioli. Now she was plating dishes like she was auditioning for a cooking channel. She set the table with folded napkins, lit candles, even added music sometimes. I played along at first, ate the meals, complimented the flavors. But it all tasted like strategy. Then came the selfies. Not for me. She wasn't texting me gym pics or cute mirror sh*ts. No, these were for her social media. More than usual. Subtle, curated. Just enough to make her look grounded and glowing. Like someone in a thriving relationship. Sometimes she'd caption them with little hints of domestic bliss. Best part of my day. Or, can't beat coming home to this. But the photos were always just of her. Never of us. It wasn't about me. It was about the illusion of me. She needed me in the picture frame of her life, even if I was just a blurred shadow in the background. She needed to appear stable, put together, professional with a personal life that added charm but didn't interfere. I watched it all with the kind of quiet detachment you develop when something inside you has already broken and healed in the wrong shape. She invited me to more work events, more networking dinners, more public spaces where affection had to be staged. The way she'd slide her hand into mine just as someone turned to greet us. The way she'd laugh a little louder when introducing me, like I was a prize she wanted the room to see. Except the warmth wasn't for me. It was performance. She'd lean in close in front of others, then shift away once we were alone. It was in the timing, the mechanics, the way her affection flicked on and off like a light switch wired to the presence of an audience. I started declining, politely at first. Big deadline this week. Can't shift the meeting. Already committed to a project. I gave reasons that didn't spark suspicion. She didn't push back hard. Just nodded and said, "That's okay." In that too light voice, like she didn't mind. Like she already knew the truth but hadn't found the angle to use it yet. When I stopped attending events, she doubled down at home. More cooking. More let's try this movie. More, I've been thinking. Maybe we should take a weekend trip soon. She even brought up Hawaii, our honeymoon spot. Said it'd be healing. Her word, not mine. I think that was the moment I realized she still hadn't accepted what was coming. She thought this was salvageable. That if she was sweet enough, present enough, careful enough, I'd forget. I'd fall back into the rhythm. That the absence of conflict would become mistaken for peace. But I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't fighting. And in her world, silence meant things were working. She couldn't tell the difference between compliance and detachment. I wasn't trying to hurt her. That's the part people don't get. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to expose her or ruin her career or blow up her life. I just wanted out. Cleanly. Quietly. With my dignity intact. I stopped meeting her gaze during dinner. Stopped initiating touch. Stopped filling the silences with light conversation. I didn't ask how her day was. Didn't press when she got home late. I let her speak first. If she didn't, we didn't speak. It became a pattern. She'd try to close the space. I gently hold the boundary. And the more I pulled away, the more she seemed to perform connection rather than seek it. One morning, she brought me coffee in bed. Something she hadn't done in years. She sat beside me, hair still damp from the shower, steam curling off the mug like it was some perfect domestic scene. "I know I've been distant," she said, "but I'm trying. I hope you see that." I took the coffee, nodded, thanked her. She wanted a moment, a response, a sign of thawing. I gave her gratitude and nothing more, because what I felt wasn't anger. It was clarity. There was no way to rebuild trust when one person was still operating from a place of manipulation. She wasn't doing these things because she missed me. She was doing them because she missed the version of me that covered for her, the shield, the buffer, the mask. She didn't miss me. She missed control. One night, She put on my old hoodie, the one she used to steal when we first dated. Wore it while watching TV, curled up beside me. Like muscle memory, like mimicry. I didn't react. She eventually said, "Remember when we used to stay up until 2 a.m. binging stuff?" I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "I remember. That was it. Because the guy who used to stay up with her, he was already gone. And she was starting to realize it." The first crack in her calm came 2 weeks later. I got home later than usual. I'd gone out after work, just walked downtown. No real plan. I came in around 9:30. Chloe was sitting on the couch in silence. No TV, no music, just her staring at her phone. She looked up, startled. "You didn't text," she said. "I was worried." I shrugged. "Phone died." It hadn't. She knew that. I think that was the first time I saw her afraid. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I made pasta. There's still some on the stove." I told her I wasn't hungry, walked to the bedroom, closed the door. 10 minutes later, she knocked. Soft, uncertain. "Can we talk?" I opened the door but didn't move aside. She stood there holding a mug of tea like a peace offering. "I just feel like we've been off lately. I know things have been hectic, but I miss you." I nodded. "I know." She waited, probably hoping I'd say I missed her too. I didn't. Instead, I said, "I'm going to bed. Early morning." And then I closed the door. The next day, I noticed she'd cleaned the entire house. Not just tidied, scrubbed. The baseboards, the windows, even rearranged the shelf in the bathroom where she kept her skincare stuff. It wasn't just cleaning. It was erasing, covering tracks, resetting the stage. It didn't matter anymore. She could clean the whole house with bleach and fire. It wouldn't change what I knew. Wouldn't change the photos, the messages, the mornings she woke up beside someone else and told herself it didn't count. I wasn't going to tell her yet. Not until I was ready. Not until the paperwork was finalized and the pieces were in place. But I knew now, completely without a flicker of doubt, that I wasn't going back. Not to her bed. Not to her table. Not to her story. Whatever we had, whatever we built, it was over. And she was the only one still pretending otherwise. When I began packing, Chloe finally broke. Tears, apologies, promises. It all came pouring out. She called it a mistake. Begged to fix things, said she still loved me. But I wasn't moved. Her panic wasn't about losing me, it was about losing control. I stayed calm, gave her logistics and boundaries, not emotion. That scared her more than anything. Not the betrayal being exposed, but the fact that I no longer reacted. A week after I left, I found her journal. First line, "Wake up without him. Wish granted." But now she called daily, asking about bills, her voice cracking with loneliness. She thought freedom would feel like power, but it felt like silence. I finalized everything, paperwork, accounts, my exit. No more pretending. No more return. She got the independence she fantasized about. Just not the fantasy life she expected to come with it.